As you know, part of my story at 40 years old, I had a major heart attack, divorced my high school sweetheart of 23 years, became a millionaire that year, and went through some extreme depression.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
On this episode today, I have a special guest. He's a really close friend of mine. We go back a number of years, even pre high school. He was one of the first people I met when I moved to California from Europe, and he's always been very nice, always been very kind. We did a lot of special things together when we were at that age. I don't know if he remembers. We were in the Mr. Beauty contest. We also used to do we also used to do fashion shows, believe it or not. When that wasn't really popular for men to do, we were doing that in high school. I don't know if you remember that, Noah.
Oh, I do now. Thank you for reminding me, bro. I still got pictures.
hey, he hey, he had hair and I had hair during those days. And all the hair from my head has gone to our face.
That's right.
And we're living that beard life. But hey, Noah's an interesting man. We haven't talked in a number of years, but now he is one of my speakers for the TEDx event here in April on April 14th here in San Luis Obispo. And one of the things that I wanted to do, following him over the last few months and watching his story and seeing how he has developed, how his story has developed, I felt that it was pivotal in bringing him in on this venture that I'm on. And he has an amazing story. He's doing some amazing things. So what I'm going to start off with right now is allowing him to give us a little bit in his own words about himself and what he's doing these days.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm a mountain man through and through. I love mountains. I love four season mountains. I'm a winter mountaineer. Like to climb them, ski them, play on them, do all kinds of crazy stuff. Definitely a strong man of faith. My son's 21. So, as you know, part of my story at 40 years old, I had a major heart attack, divorced my high school sweetheart of 23 years, became a millionaire that year, and went through some extreme depression, suicidal depression, in fact. No light was coming in. So I just decided to go to the mountains and find my healing. Went to church first, actually. I can't forget about that part. Sat in that front pew for months on end, just weeping and weeping and weeping while God worked on my heart. Then I just decided, I'm going to go live life. And for me, that just meant following my heart. And my heart is in nature. So I came off recently off a road trip. I was on the road for 547 days, traveling from New Mexico to Canada, backpacking and hiking and climbing and wildlife encounters like grizzly bears and bighorn sheep and mountain goats and all kinds of cool things, sleeping out under the stars, bathing in the cold streams, and just being a wild mountain man, just following my heart. So that that road trip definitely changed my life. I really didn't know how long it was going to last for. Didn't have a fancy Mercedes Sprinter van or an RV. When I was ready to go, I was ready to go, and prices of those vehicles really shot up because of COVID. So I just
Right, of course.
looked at my car. It was a Chevy Impala four-door sedan. I yanked out the passenger seat, cut out the seat belt, cut out the wires on the bottom when I couldn't figure out how to take them out. Went to Home Depot, put a bed, ordered a ordered a 5-inch thick foam bed from Amazon Prime, and I just figured, hey, I got a place to sleep in a pinch, and I hit the road. I ended up being gone for 547 days, so just part of my journey.
Yeah, man. And he is has a huge following on TikTok. And if you follow him, and follow some of the things that he's been doing, is very inspiring, super inspiring. So, cycling back or circling back, you were first talked about having a heart attack, and tell us a little bit about how that happened. I mean, you're rather active, younger man, and so how do you think this occurred at this point in your life?
So I was definitely under extreme duress and work stress. There was probably a 4.5, 5 year period where I was working 6 days a week, every other week. In my profession, I was a top performer, top producer, top 5% in the nation type deal. My phone was always ringing. Never really was getting a chance to rest. My personality was really starting to change. I was just kind of losing my patience and my kindness, and I was always under the gun and always anxious, kind of going to bed anxious, waking up ready to go to war. And I think it was taking its toll on me. The day that I had my heart attack, I was doing intense interval training with US Navy SEAL Paul Watson. So high intensity, heart rate up, pumping blood, pumping blood, pumping blood. About 15 minutes after my workout, I ended up sweating profusely and collapsing in the gym parking lot. I rode my bicycle to the corner because I was embarrassed. Doctor said likely a little piece of plaque dislodged in my body from all that blood flowing, and that little plaque went right to my widowmaker. That shut it down, the main artery in my heart, 100%. So,
Oh wow,
yep, that was the kind of the beginning of my journey, and just this healing journey I've been on ever since.
man! And you said you had a heart attack. You collapsed in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So were you able to get to the hospital, or did somebody attend to you? What happened from there?
So fortunately, there was two women that had trained with me that day, and I had called out to them. I saw them walking. They were the last ones at the gym, and I saw them off in the distance. And I just said, "Hey, something's not right. Could you come be with me?" And they came to me, and they were with me for about an hour. I was on my hands and knees, breathing rapidly and tossing and turning, and telling them I was probably having a nervous breakdown. I mean, I was breathing like.
Yeah.
Uh, After about an hour, I asked them to please call the ambulance. And then the ambulance came, and of course, I tried to walk it off too. Told them I was from Salinas, and we don't ask for help. Really
Hey, I'm from
stupid
Salinas, dog.
words. That's exactly what I said, dude. So crazy. I was like, I'm from Salinas. We don't ask for help, and so stupid. Tried to walk it off, and I told the paramedics I was probably just having a nervous breakdown, and I was weeping and crying, and then they did a final test and EKG, and that just slammed the door shut, rushed me to the hospital, and then it was on. At that point, it was just the clock was ticking. I needed to have surgery, and I didn't even know what was going on.
Wow, man. And
Yeah.
at this time, you said you were going through a divorce, so I'm sure that you were alone at this
Well,
time.
we were separated. We were still under the same house, the roof, but our my marriage was on fire. It was collapsing. Right. I tell everyone like everything in my life was collapsing. I felt except for my money. My money was we had worked as a really good team, and we were always really good with money and investing, but everything around me it felt like it was collapsing.
Man, just looking back, and you and Dana, oh, I didn't really mean to put the name out there, but you
Oh,
and your
it's
wife,
okay.
you and your ex-wife had got together really, really young, but you guys were always pretty had it together and pretty straightforward, and always kind of knew the direction that you were going. And I don't want to get too private, but man, what happened that this took this turn left while everything else was going right?
Yeah, you can get as deep as you want, man. I was in a really bad state. I was just basically workaholic, and like I said, she would call me Jekyll and Hyde. My personality was starting to change. I was, losing my patience and my kindness, and I was Mr. Get shit done, like get on board or get the fuck out of my way. And just taking its toll. Wasn't being the best husband that I could be. And, she didn't sign up for that. I wasn't the man that she married. And, I started to believe the devil's lie that I couldn't change, that's who I was now. And I didn't realize that it was such a process to change and kind of restore myself. And it really took me being on my hands and knees to find that. So,
How just looking at the situation, and that's a huge amount of self-awareness on your part to even admit that and to realize your part in the situation, if not the greater part of the situation. It was what was going on with you that probably caused the downward spiral of your relationships. So, what about your situation during that time was really forcing you or causing you to be that way? I know you said work was a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress, and you are Mr. Get It Done. But just personality wise, that wasn't you. So how'd you get so far away from your core, your center?
You know, I just I lost who I was. I got caught up in providing and making money and filling these shoes that wasn't really me. I wanted to be top producer. That was my aim. I'm kind of driven to be the best that I can be, and I found myself in a field where I wanted to be the best that I could be, and just guns blazing, all in. Do or ride or die, get it done, just whatever it took type deal. And the more I followed that path, the more that I really was kind of turning into a person and a man that I wasn't really happy with. I wasn't really like a happy and joyous person. So I think it's just for me, it's just I found myself in a field that I could make as much money as I wanted, just how hard I decided to work. And I thought that, that was the best thing for my family to be this, amazing, outstanding provider. We paid off our first home when we were 29 years old. We paid off our first apartment when we were 34 years old. I thought all those things were just the right thing for a man to do. And the more I focused on those things, I lost sight of what was really important.
Absolutely. I understand, as men, we do prize being focused, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Being determined. We'll talk a little bit about that, and being a provider, and all of those are the things that you probably would agree that God instilled in us to be that way. We're designed to be that way. And so, but what people don't realize is what is meant for good can often turn bad. It can always go left because you get out of balance. And so, when you're out of balance at that point, that's when it bleeds over and starts to affect your personal relationships. It starts to affect your personality, as you spoke about. Tell us some strategies and how God worked with you, bringing you back to this self awareness that you have now.
Yeah, I was definitely caught up. My identity was getting caught up in the money that I made, and I didn't know how to really walk away from that. Before my heart attack, I was in the process of taking a sabbatical. I told my bosses that I needed time off, like a month or two, because I was just so out of balance, and I was aware of it. But at the same time, it was just extremely difficult to just say, "Hey, I'm going to walk away from the money." So, in the aftermath, I just really believe and feel like God had to bring me on my knees. That was the only way that I was going to change. That was the only way that I was going to break down the walls that I had built up in my heart, right? All the different defense things that I was doing, building up the walls, getting the thick skin, ready to go to battle with, the clients and the customers and the real estate agents and the phone never stopping to ring. So, God brought me on my hands and knees, and he literally broke down every wall in my heart. That's how I feel about it, Prince. I mean, that instance has been over 5.5 years, and I still cry every single day, like multiple times a day. Either it's tears of gratitude and joy, or sometimes tears still of hurt or pain, or I feel people's pain now. Before I was always like, "Ah, that's on you. You get what you put into life." And I became a very like empathetic person. So it's kind of like got a brand new lease on life and a brand new heart, really.
And speaking of a brand new lease on life and a brand new heart, after the heart attack, how hard was it to work your way back from that? I can't even
Yeah,
fathom that at this point.
that was seemed like it was a massive mountain of disbelief, right? That's the topic. That's the name of my presentation, Moving Mountains of Disbelief. I had this massive mountain of disbelief in front of me that I didn't think I can climb over, and it was so massive that no light was coming in. um, how did I get over it? It was like after the third or fourth day of laying in bed just wanting to take my life because no light was coming in. I just dragged myself to the front pew of church, man, and just started asking God to break down the walls in my heart. And then I just Started getting back to my roots of nature and what I love. And just when you spend a lot of time in nature, there's just a lot of healing power that goes in on that. So those were really my two avenues to start the healing process. And I had to do a lot of it alone, which was tough. Didn't have my spouse, didn't just was on this journey, man. Didn't want to drag anyone else into it, didn't want to get into a relationship with a woman just to pacify me or make me feel better. I just had to go fight back. And
And fighting, you are definitely doing, and obviously we can, and I can see even the emotional struggle that had to be, and I can tell how much that's affected you, but physically and both mentally, when we go through those struggles, and oftentimes alone, and even when you have somebody around you, you often feel like you're alone, and you're talking to, God or whoever that you believe, what keeps you moving forward? Because not only did you have that physical limitation, I'm sure for a short time, but you are also having these suicidal thoughts. How did you, just, I know you talked about going to church and asking God to work with you, but still, we still have to live in a reality to where we still have to be functional. So how do you, deal with all of those things, in this world right now?
well, I chose to fight back. I was being consumed by fear and anxiety. It was a gripping fear. And for me, how I chose to fight back, one day I just was watching my son at his jujitsu match, and I was just picturing that I was having my heart attack again. And I just like, whoa, Noah, you're consumed by fear. So that weekend, I got my dog gear and Bible. I went up to the snow covered mountains for 2 nights in 15-degree weather. On the second night in the mountains, I just was in a complete place of clarity and just a complete place of like openness. I stood outside my tent and I raised my arms to the heavens and I just said, you know what, God, if you're going to take me, take me, but I'm not going to live my life in fear. And I just flipped a major switch and I just started getting after it. I started walking, started working out, but slowly doing my pull ups, not overexerting, right?
Right.
And then at 9 months, so I had been training. I started walking and training again because I realized just laying in bed was just super unhealthy for me. I have to move. And then at 9 months, the doctor cleared my heart. He said, Noah, you are 100% recovered. And I just felt so much joy. 2 days later, I competed in my first triathlon. I swam a mile in a frigid cold lake. The following weekend, the day of my heart attack, Prince, I had a 22-mile day hike planned. It's a 6,000-foot elevation gain. And I changed my plans that day. And I'm thankful I did because I could have died on the mountain.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
after I did my triathlon, the next week I went back and I did that hike, that 22-mile day hike. And then a few months later, I found myself on top of Mount Whitney. I did about a 100-mile backpacking trip. And just put myself in the woods where I was extremely vulnerable, right? If something goes wrong out there, the ambulance isn't coming to rush you to the hospital in 5 minutes. It
Yeah.
could be a day or two. Like for me, it was just freeing because it's like, well, if it happens again, it happens again, and there's nothing I could do about it. I'll die out here. But that was my fear confront. And after I did those fear confronts, I mean, that's been 4.5 years. I just haven't looked back, man. I just kept going and going and going, and I keep elevating. And now I got bigger mountains on my mind. I got bigger trails on my mind, and I don't want to stop.
Yeah. Well, speaking of mountains and trails, bigger mountains and trails, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about some of the things that you have moving forward, not only physically, but also what you might be presenting, emotionally, mentally, the messages that you have coming up in the cross.
Yeah. Well, I'm about elevation, right? I'm about gain, right?
Yep.
Elevating myself, not just in life, but on the mountain. So, I've been above 14,000 feet 50 times now. And my next ambition is Denali. So that'll be my first time above 20,000 feet. That's a straight Alaskan expedition. I'll be in the mountains for 10 days. I'll have a crew. A helicopter will drop us off, and once again, if something goes wrong, the ambulance isn't going to be there to rush you to the hospital. It's just you, right? So that's one of my big ambitions. And then I want to do the Pacific Crest Trail next. So my longest through hike to this point is like 500 miles. I did a 500-mile backpacking trip. Now I want to do the Pacific Crest Trail, which is Canada to Mexico. So I don't want to talk about it a whole lot. I just want to do it,
Right, right.
because you got to get it done, right? It's cool to say it, but people could say a lot of stuff. I got to do it. So those are some of the things I have on the horizon. I want to travel Europe for a year or two. I want to see the world. We have a big, beautiful world to see, and I try to spread kindness and love along the way. I'm really big about that. On my road trip, I probably cooked for at least 30 men. So on the side of a trail or in my car off on a remote spot, just offering men to cook for them. So just part of me giving back and spreading kindness and love. The world is lacking that.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you cook on a trail for 30 men?
No, not a 30 at once, but a total of 30 different
Oh,
men.
okay. I was like, man,
Uh,
that's pretty intense. But okay. I know nothing about, the outdoors in that way, but I was like, okay, well, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. But
I'm
what
always trying
really
to brew up a cup of coffee, or, hey man, can I treat you to tea or coffee? Are you hungry? Just I have my Yeti cooler in my car. I'm a heart attack survivor, so I have to eat good. So when
yeah,
I'm on the road, I still eat good, fill that thing with veggies and fresh, healthy meats, and if I get the chance to cook with someone, I always jump on that.
yeah. Now, I mean, you're outdoors and you're backpacking, so I'm sure you see a lot of wild game and a lot of animal life out there. Now, are you afraid being attacked? Are you afraid of somebody stalking you? What are the challenges that present itself when you're out there?
Definitely I talked about in my healing journey, going to the mountains and saying, God, I'm not going to live my life in fear. That definitely flipped a switch in me. I will tell you, on my road trip, I remember I was out solo. I had an encounter with a massive moose. That was pretty scary. Those A moose is massive, right? And I was the only one out. I've had a handful of grizzly bear encounters that will get all your hair sticking up. It's this enormous beast. It's like a pit bull times 20, and
Wow.
it's just, if that thing turns on you, it's game over. A couple months ago, I was in Yosemite, and it was late at night. It was already dark, and I was hiking along the trail, and I realized that a black bear. I was sharing the trail with the black bear, and it's probably one of the most coolest nights of my life. I followed it for about 150 feet and turned on my phone with my video camera, and then the light scared it away. But I was like so excited. I was like, oh, I got to share the trail with the black bear. So, certain encounters, yeah, definitely. Grizzly encounter gonna get me all riled up. But other encounters, I just think it's a beautiful part of being outside.
Now they say when you encounter a grizzly, they tell you to play dead. So, what's the actual advice to that?
I think that would be, you got to take your bear spray, and I think if it's attacking you, then you got to fight back. But from what I've read, you got to play dead. But if it's come down to they're gonna kill you, then you got to do what you can do. But when you see them in person, and you see how massive and strong they are, you realize that your efforts are gonna be pretty futile. But the reality is, I mean, 2 years ago when I was in Montana on the trail, I caught word it happened like weeks before. There was three high school, or maybe like junior college aged men. They got attacked by a black bear, and by a grizzly bear. They all banded together and fought it off. They sustained like serious injuries, but none of them died, and they fought off the grizzly bear. So, I mean, obviously, I don't want to get to that level, and I guess if that did happen, I'd be a pretty major legend to my son, and that would be pretty cool.
A pretty cool story, probably some pretty cool scars as well.
Provide some pretty cool scars.
I don't, I don't, I'm not convinced that bear spray is going to do it though. Not convinced. but I'm sure it makes people feel a little bit more secure.
A little bit more secure.
Yeah, yeah. No, man. Do you do any hunting when you're out there on the trails in the
I'm not
mountains?
a hunter, but one of the things that I want to get into is I'd like to become a bow hunter.
That's
So,
right.
yep, not a hunter yet. I don't want to hunt with a rifle. I'd like to learn to hunt with a bow. So maybe in the next few years, that's something that I'll pick up.
Okay. Yeah, I shoot a bow and arrow.
Right on. I think it's
Yeah.
awesome. That's the way to take your game out. They have a chance. You have to get up close and personal. That's pretty
You
cool, man, that you do that.
you got to stalking, you got to track, and all the skills that you need to, survival skills, especially if, this world takes a complete dump. You
Yeah.
need you need some, outdoor skills, if not a whole lot, So I'm not really outdoorsy, but I do like to hunt, when I get a chance. See, I love to hunt. I just don't like the field game.
Yeah. Hire somebody.
I know, man. I like to go stalk the prey, but I sure don't want to do all the other stuff, man. But anyway, no, man. So Noah, I invited you to do a TEDx talk. I mean, you were really inspiring to me. And I listened to a few of your TikToks. And let's talk a little bit about that as well. Why did you feel like you wanted to document it on social media?
I love sharing my journey. I think it's pretty cool. My story is really God's glory. Everything that I looked from coming up in Salinas to all that bullshit and just my work career and God bringing me from a heart attack and all my experience in the mountains. It's just my story is God's glory and I want to share it. And I hope that it inspires other people. A lot of people think that what I do is dangerous, and I think what you do is dangerous. If you sit on the couch all day, if you watch media or news all day, and you eat Doritos all day, I think that's super dangerous. So I just want to inspire people to get off the couch and move, and hopefully find their healing in nature. To me, nature is a very healing place, and inspire people to move. I mean, this country is facing epidemic levels of obesity, and it's not healthy for our national security. It's not healthy for our mentality. It's like, got to get up and move. So I hope that my story inspires people to get up and move.
I know it definitely inspired me. I mean, I've always been a weight room guy, but
Oh, yeah.
now I found as I've gotten older, my priorities have changed a little bit, and so that's not super high on my priority as far as pushing myself in the way that I push myself. I get to the gym obviously for general health, and I still like to lift heavy, but I also realize that that I need to add other things to my overall health component, like eating healthy and like doing the cardio and increasing my aerobic capacity. Like you said, the heart attack deal and some of the other metabolic diseases are pretty rampant. And as we get older, and as older men, or older younger men, because we're not that old, we're kind of middle-aged men,
Yeah.
um, those things start to present themselves, and it's a lot easier to get ahead of it than to attack it from the back. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh, I'd agree. And I remember, I don't know if you remember, we used to train at Hartnell together.
That's right.
And I can't remember the name of the gym in South Salinas or something like that, but you would always push a lot of weight.
Yeah.
A lot of weight. I don't know nothing about that kind of weight.
Hey, I still haven't outgrown that side of me. That's a huge part of me. But
Yeah,
I have I have so many different things that I'm actually working on myself. So I've kind of trying to take a little bit of a back seat on that, but and work on some of the other parts of my game. But fitness is definitely a huge part of my life. Will always continue to be a part of my life because as yourself, especially when you got a lot going on, you need that energy,
yeah,
and it starts to deteriorate. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. So
yeah,
I'm trying to keep going. I
yeah,
got a lot of life to live, man. I got a lot of life to live, and a lot of people who look up to me and depend on me, And so, with that, I have a responsibility to take care of myself first.
I agree with you, man. It's important.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're kind of on that same path, and you're looking to do the same things. As you got to look out for number one, because nobody else. At the end of the day, people might love you, people might need you, might depend on you, but at the end of the day, they need you to be there for you first. You
That's
can't
right.
feel from you can't feel from an empty cup.
Can't. It's
Yeah,
absolutely right. I agree with you. Yep. Can't fill from an empty cup. Got to fill ourselves first, you know?
yeah. And so, and although God designed us to be the men that we are, and you are an astounding man, it sounds like you were trying to give of yourself when and you just completely depleted yourself, and now you're starting to do the things that you need to do for you that makes you fulfilled.
Yeah, I did deplete myself. Yeah, and what I do now, it's very fulfilling. I love it. It's just, it's hard to put into words, but it's just part of who I am now. I dream about it. I think about it. I want the feeling of being on top of the mountains and being in nature and, cold plunging. And I mean, I was in Canada and Banff National Park and Jasper National Park, and I'm the only guy out there just stripping down and jumping in these, glacier waters, just being a complete savage, wild mountain man and just loving every minute of it.
Yeah, yeah. So you're based in Fresno now, so Fresno's home base.
Based in Fresno, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it doesn't sound like you're home very much.
No, I mean, I've been gone a lot, and I got some things I have to do over this next year just to get myself repositioned, and then I'm gonna hit the road again.
Yeah.
Hopefully, do it with the bride, but we'll see.
Okay, all right. Hey, as great to have, man. That have that partner in crime to help push you forward.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to be remarried. This time, it's going the distance, 100%.
Hey, man, I pray that it all works out for you in that
Thank you,
way.
Prince. Appreciate
Yeah,
it, bro.
hey, the way the life sometimes is to present itself, in the way that I see things going is not always easy. You can find a partner, or you can find somebody to hang out with, but it's not always easy to find the right partner.
Yeah,
It's a little bit of a struggle at times.
I can see
So
that.
yeah, yeah, and and we're high value prize men, and sometimes you don't want to lower your values and compromise your boundaries in order to appease someone else. We've been down that road, and again, you can't fill from an empty cup.
Yep, I agree.
So you have a son.
Yeah, my son Isaiah, he's 21 years old now. I'm an empty nester. I'm flying. I've been flying.
Well, you take him on the road with you sometimes.
Oh yeah, yep. On my road trip, I flew him into Colorado, flew him into Utah, flew him into Washington, took him to Iceland a few months ago for his 21st birthday. So I had five manhood ceremonies for Isaiah. In Iceland, we had his fifth and final manhood ceremony. So had a cold beer with him. He turned 21 and just had a beautiful, beautiful time with him.
So when you say manhood ceremony, what are you talking about? Explain.
Yeah, so I taught a course at church called Raising a Modern Day Knight. So just teaching men how to raise their sons to be an example, to raise them to love God, to respect women, have men of high value and integrity. So part of that process is having manhood ceremonies for your son. It's pretty cool, man. I won't go into all of them. I had five manhood ceremonies for him total. The third manhood ceremony was on the top of Mount Whitney at 14,505 feet when he was 14 years old. So we climbed to the top of that peak over a 2 day period. And, at the top, I just had a message for him. I told him that if he could do that mountain, he could do any mountain that he faced in his life. I had a gift for him. And then the fourth ceremony, I called in all the elders, had about 8 men come. I treated them to a dinner, a barbecue restaurant type deal, and for his 18th birthday. We all sat at the table. We all had a message for him, and each man had their own tailored message, whatever they felt was on their heart. So we were indoctrinating him to his manhood. And then 21 was more of just like a, not really a message anymore, just being there for him and loving on him. And you are a man now. But I mean, I've given him my messages, and he knows what it looks like to be a man. And so the 21st was kind of like the culmination of not of fatherhood, because I'm obviously his father and I'm going to still be there for him. But it was just like, we've done our job. We raised a man. Now, Isaiah, you're 21, and you need to go out in this world and get after it.
So, what are some of the things that he's up to and doing? And I'm sure he's fashioned his life around the role model that is you.
Yeah, Isaiah, he's a go-getter, man. He graduated high school with the 4.3 GPA, and he did his first year in college, did really good, and said it wasn't for him. So decided to pursue his business ventures, and he's starting his own journey, leading men and building his team to sell solar. And it's just another cool, it's really cool watching his journey unfold and him following his dreams. So when he told me he was dropping out of college, I didn't really skip a beat. My life is very unconventional. I can't expect him to live a conventional life in a box and say, well, you got to go to college and you got to do this and that. I got to let him spread his wings and find out what works for him. So as long as he's, working and living his life, and it's exciting for me to see him go get it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, I mean, he's a product of you. So,
Yeah.
what would you expect otherwise?
Yeah. Me and Dana, he's definitely a strong product of both of us. He's got good moral compass and really hard work ethic and everything he does. I mean, you should see his quads, dude. He's jacked, got a six pack, big heavy chest. He does all the big old butt, from all the squats and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, dude. I love it. And he can hang with me on any mountain. Any mountain I put him on, he's strong.
Hey, man, that's awesome. That's amazing. Hey, I'm loving it. So, shifting gears, let's talk about the TEDx here
Okay.
in just a few weeks. I'm so excited for all of our speakers, and you're the lead off. And I really felt like the only person that could lead off was you. And my reasoning behind that is because your story is such an emotional grab, and people is going to draw people in, and they need to hear that. And that just sets the stage for, I believe, a phenomenal start to a long day. But tell us a little bit about the direction that you're going, some of the ideas that you're working on, and what you want others to pull from this.
My purpose is really that people would harness the power of determination and use that harness power to move the mountains of disbelief in their life.
Wow.
We all walk around with certain limiting beliefs. This is my mountain of disbelief, whether it's a health issue, business venture, or, the different things in life that force us to sit in a cage or in a box and we're afraid to get out. I want people to realize that through determination, you can move those mountains, you could scale those mountains. You don't have to sit complacent and say, I can't do that, or that's not for me, or I'm afraid to do that. It's like, no, man, get after it. You don't have to be afraid.
Okay.
If you fall, you fall. Get back up, rise and rise again. What other people think about you? Who cares what other people think about you? Like, man, I'm Noah. I'm a mountain man. I poop in the woods. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care what you think about me. I'm living a good life. I have good character. I love people. I'm gonna live my life. So,
Hey, and you say something really phenomenal is really detaching from what people feel and what people think. And that's been a huge part of my journey at various times and various levels and various situations, to where we get caught up in the approval seeking paradigm, and where you're doing things not because of the pure joy or for the pure purpose of what you want to do. You're doing it strictly based in, hey, well, I can do this. I want to do it well because I want to get the accolades behind it. And so when you talk about limiting beliefs, when you're pulled and drawn by those external circumstances, those things, when those things turn left, when you have the intention of going right, it can definitely turn and create this downward spiral. So is that some of the things that you're going to touch on in this event?
I mean, my downward spiral was I wanted to commit suicide. I mean, that was my downward spiral. That was no light was coming in. So I chose to fight back. You know, you got to fight back, got to howl back. You know, how many times I'm on the mountain and the wind is so intense? You know, I'm on the side of a mountain and the wind is whipping and it's twirling around my body and tugging at my legs and pushing on my body in all the different directions, and I'm on my hands and knees. I'm on my knees with my hand down because I don't want to get blown off the mountain, you know, and I hear the mountain screaming and howling, and it's like I howl back. I'm on the mountains, you probably think I'm a crazy man. I'm sitting up there just howling at the top of my lungs like, push me over, let's go, let's do it, you know, like, just you got to howl back. So think a lot of people, maybe they just need to rediscover that they have that in them, that they have the ability to howl back, you know.
The fight back.
Fight back, man.
So from a mental health standpoint, and wanting to take your life, man, what would you tell uh, people in general, but especially young men? Because for men, there isn't that avenue of being able to always go to a community. As men,
Yeah.
we're expected to just deal with it. And
Yeah.
to a point, that's fine. There is a certain level of grit that we have to possess.
Yeah.
Being able to cope, is a skill, but still having community. What would you suggest? How would you go about, talking to a young person who might be struggling a little bit?
I mean, mental health is so real. It's such a big challenge. You know, you got to love yourself. You know, I just feel really strongly about that. You got to learn to harness the power of the words in your mind, what you're telling yourself over and over. You know, you're not a loser. You know, you're not loved. God loves you. Maybe you don't have a lot of people around you that are giving you that love, but you got a father in heaven that loves you. You really got to just harness the power of the thoughts and the things that you're telling yourself over and over. But you're loved. You know, you have to know that you are loved and you're worthy. And in your darkest despair, there's gonna be light at the end of the tunnel, and it's so hard to see sometimes, you know, you get so caught in the cloud, but it's gotta be, there is light at the end of the tunnel and you're loved.
And you said something very crucial right there, is that self-talk is, flipping the negative switch and really talking to yourself. And one of my favorite verses in the Bible is, you have to encourage yourself. And that's where I think that's lacking, is where the message doesn't get across. Yeah, we're trying to seek for that validation outside of ourselves, when really we should be turning inward, creating an environment where we can speak to ourselves in a way that we are loved. If nobody loves you, you got to love yourself first.
You really do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I know that you have big things coming. You have a lot of prep coming up, and I know even tonight that you said you're working on crafting your skill and crafting your message. So I'm not going to hold you too much longer, man. I thank you for coming on and sharing and talking with me a little bit. I think this is what people need to hear, and so I appreciate you, man. I love you, man.
I love you, Prince. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm super excited. I'm gonna bring my story and bring my message and
I know you
really,
are.
yep.
I know you are, man. Hey, so well, listen, we'll have you on again, but I look forward to seeing you here in about 5 weeks.
Just around the
5 weeks,
corner.
man. It's coming. It's
It's
coming fast.
coming.
All right. Well, appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Prince. God bless you, bro.